Well, hi, I'm Jeff Strong. I'm creator of the Auditory Brain Stimulation Therapy Rhythmic Entrainment Intervention and co-founder and creative director of BrainShiftRadio.com. In this video, I want to talk about my soundtrack for success, the different types of music I choose throughout the day that have a very intentional quality to them. I listen to a lot of music, and I'm sure you do too. A lot of people, really their lives are driven by the music they listen to. For me, I treat it very intentionally. Because I've been doing this work I have for so long and really looking at how musical rhythm drives the brain and behavior, I really take a lot of time to think about exactly what I'm choosing to listen to. And so I want to talk a bit about this in this video. You can listen to regular music, obviously, and choose things that move you emotionally. But when I'm talking about musical rhythm, I'm talking about things that are going to move you physiologically. Things that are going to shift your brain and impact your brain in very specific ways. And I choose my music to really optimize that effect. So for instance, I start my day with a meditation. And my meditation is always driven by the drumming. And I've talked about this quality before, where for tens of thousands of years, people have been using a very slow, repetitive drumming rhythm to drive the brain into a low state of theta consciousness, which is a deep, deep meditative state. And so I will choose something, for instance, and in this video I'll reference BrainShift Radio because that's a site that I built specifically to be able to use throughout the day for the purposes that I want to use it for. So I created 7 categories of music so that I could pick and choose. I have a meditation category, a calm category, a focus category, a brain boost category, mood, energy, and sleep. And so I will choose something out of those categories almost every day throughout the day. So in the morning it's meditation. The cool thing about what we've done in BrainShift Radio is I've got all these tracks that have different qualities to them. So it's always drumming, and there's always another instrument, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the drumming for meditation is all between about 3.5 and 5 beats per second. The idea here is to bring the brain through entrainment, brainwave entrainment, into the low end of the theta state of consciousness. And you'll notice I've done a lot of videos on meditation. I've done a lot of guided meditations where I'm playing and asking you to connect in very specific ways. BrainShift Radio doesn't give you the guidance by that, telling you what to focus on, but it offers different qualities of drumming. One thing that is on there that is not in any of the videos that I do is multiple instruments. So for instance, I may stack 10 or 15 or 20 drums in a track to create a real deep experience, be able to mix different qualities of drums, solos and not solos, and bed tracks and things like this, to create just kind of an environment to take you in a different direction than you would go with a single drum. I also include on BrainShift Radio ambient music tracks, synthesizer-based soundscapes that can moderate and modulate the way the drumming works. So for the meditation track, for instance, they're not super busy. They're designed to kind of just keep your awareness a little bit off the drumming so that you're just kind of floating along. And some of them have very strong personalities to them that kind of can send you in one direction or another. One thing that we did with BrainShift Radio as well is we give you the ability to switch out the music. So when you choose a category, for instance, say you choose meditation, and you choose a level of meditation, I want a deep meditation, the system will choose music for you. It'll choose a rhythm track and an ambient track, and they'll both play in sync. And you can swap them out, you can mix between them, and it's really kind of cool that way. So it gives you a lot of chance to manipulate your experience by fine-tuning it for your own benefits. But even if you didn't do that, even if you just chose to sit down and play a drum yourself, or pick up your hardcover book and tap out the rhythm, simple rhythm, 4 beats per second. It's about this tempo. You do that for a little while, your brain's going to synchronize to this, and it's going to deepen your meditation. So for me, I'll listen to a BrainShift Radio track, or I'll play a drum. If I don't have a drum, or I don't have the music to listen to, I'll actually tap on myself. I'll tap on my leg, or I'll tap on my chest, or maybe I'll even tap on my head. Just at that slow tempo, just to kind of facilitate the meditation, just because it makes it deeper for me. And it makes it foolproof. And being someone who has a super active brain, it helps, even after all these years, get me really deep. So that's how I do meditation. Slow rhythms, low end of theta. Then throughout the day, I'll choose, for instance, focusing. The main thing that you want to look for in focusing music is you want to look for something novel and unpredictable. You want something that your brain can just process without fully deciphering. Once it deciphers it, it doesn't have the same activating impact on your nervous system. It may be fun for you to listen to, or it may be interesting, or it may be nostalgic for you, or make you feel good, but those are all emotional responses. The rhythm is going to hit you physiologically. And so what I do is if I use brain shift radio, obviously I choose the focus or the brain boost category. Otherwise, I'm putting on a track that has a very unusual pattern to it. So that might sound something like this if I were to play. Constantly changing rhythm, pretty quick, around 8 beats per second. We want to be out of theta for focus. You want to be in the alpha state of consciousness or higher. I find that for working, when I'm focusing on a specific task, going down my to-do list throughout the day, for instance, I want 8 beats to 9 beats per second because I don't want it too fast. I want to be in that settled place in alpha. Alpha state of consciousness, by the way, exists between about 8 and 13 hertz or 13 cycles per second. And I want to be at 8 or 9 because that's where I'm really relaxed, but I'm still outwardly directed. I'm still alert. And so that would sound kind of like this. So that's pretty quick. You'll notice I put some extra double tempo things in there. It doesn't throw off the entrainment aspect of it, but it does activate the brain even more. The real key with this, if you're listening to recorded music for focus, you want to play it quietly enough to be below your conscious awareness. Because if you're focusing on it and you're actually listening to it, you're not attending to other things. Keep in mind that we can only focus on one thing at a time. So put it in the background, let your brain just process it, but your attention, your focused attention is on your work. So make sure that can be the focal point by turning the volume down. If you're going to choose regular music to help with focus, again, you want something that is unpredictable, fairly novel. Ideally, for most people, something without lyrics, because the lyrics are going to pull you in. You're going to start listening to the words. Interesting thing is for me, even though I listen to a lot of regular music, I can't tell you the lyrics of any of the songs I hear. To me, the lyrics are simply a rhythm and a melody. I don't hear the words, I hear the structures. Because number one, I play it quiet enough that it's in the background because that's what I've trained myself to do. I don't want to be overwhelmed by the music unless I really want to sit and listen. But then if I'm listening to music, I'm actually listening to the rhythm section more than I'm listening to anything else. So I'm going to choose music that has a really strong rhythm section. Something that can pull me in, that has interesting rhythms to it. So for me, it's a little different than a lot of people who like listening to, the lyrics of a song, or maybe they want to sing along. That doesn't work for me. I like the rhythm. So, but if you are going to put on regular music, make it low enough so that it does fade from your awareness, so you're not actually listening to the lyrics and getting distracted by the song. And if you find yourself doing that, go find some music that has just an instrumental quality to it. It doesn't have to be classical music. A lot of people think, well, I need to listen to classical music because that's the one that's going to enhance my brain. That's not true. The only reason that the classical music is better than a lot of music to kind of improve cognition is that it doesn't have structures that are really easy to decipher. There's a lot of complexity there. And as well, there's no lyrics. So choose something, anything without lyrics. If I'm going to listen to an instrumental piece of music that's not just drumming and something that's focused on having the very particular neurological effect, I'm going to be listening to jazz, especially the progressive jazz, jazz fusion. That's more interesting to me than classical music. So go ahead and feel free to choose what works for you, as long as it's something that has a variable quality to it that's unpredictable. Anything that's too repetitive is going to become it's not going to activate your brain, and it actually could become annoying after a while. So the other thing throughout the day, I tend to run into a pace with myself where I kind of get a little lethargic in the afternoon, and that's part of the way my brain works. I often like to take naps in the afternoon. I'm lucky enough that I have a schedule that allows me to do that. But I will listen to an energy or a mood lifting track in the afternoon. So the energizing or mood lifting tracks are going to have a quality to them that is going to be activating for me without being chaotic like the focusing would. be if I played it louder. Because if I'm listening for energy or mood, I'm going to turn it up a little bit. So, turn it up. If it's a brain booster or focus kind of quality, it's going to become annoying. So there's got to be somewhat, at that volume, somewhat of a predictability, but not too much. It's got to have a driving quality to it. A lot of these rhythms, by the way, are going to be in groups of threes. So you'll see twos and threes. So for instance, and I'll do a video next week on mood, just to kind of go that in depth, but this would be kind of a rhythm we'd be looking at. Something like that, triplet feel, kind of drives it along, kind of wakes me up and gets me energized. So that's how I'll deal with the afternoon when I kind of drag a little bit. And then later in the evening, I'll often want calm to kind of start bringing my nervous system down. And calm, I've talked about calm a lot, and really calm is about being in that upper end of theta, lower end of alpha, 7.5 to 8.5 beats per second, somewhere in there. You could go as low as 7. A fair amount of predictability without being overly predictive. So something that has a kind of a captivating quality to it that also evolves. So think in terms of a theme with evolving variations on it. And I've used this kind of example before. I'm going to play a really common rhythm. I'm going to play a mambo. Now mambo, as far as I'm concerned, it's a 3-3-2 rhythm. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1. Probably the most common rhythm in the world for drumming. It's got a real nice flow to it. I'll take the 3-3-2 and I'll play it, and I'll just move it along and kind of work with that as a theme. And you can see how it still has a kind of evolving quality to it that's somewhat comforting, but also not so predictable that it becomes annoying. So that would sound something like this. So I took the 3-3-2 and just kind of moved it around a little bit. I didn't stray very far this time. Sometimes I go really kind of far out and come back. But this just kind of gives you an idea of how to deal with calm. If you're choosing calming music for yourself, there's two ways to go about it. One way is to use what I do, kind of a rhythmic component that's going to bring your brain into this relaxed neurological state. So we call that a neurological calm. And that's where we're bringing that brain to the low end of the alpha state of consciousness. And that requires some level of familiarity with some unpredictability and variability, enough to keep the brain engaged. Not so much that you're doing a focusing aspect, but not so repetitive like the really slow theta level, meditation level, that you can play a very steady beat. So somewhere in between. If the other way of doing this is to choose music based upon what's called the relaxation response. The relaxation response is essentially choosing a piece of music that you find psychologically soothing, something that makes you feel good, makes you feel safe. And it can be anything. It could be anything from pop music to jazz to classical to Peruvian flute, or anything you can think of, as long as it has an association with you of relaxation and calm. You know, a lot of people talk about how calming music needs to be 60 beats per minute and it needs to be sparse. It really doesn't. It needs to be somewhat predictable. It needs to be soothing, and it needs to be something that you find pleasing. And everybody's a little different there. Me, if I'm going to listen to a regular style of music that's going to be calming for me, I want a single instrument generally. And I love anything from the ambient music world, Brian Eno, any of these guys. Soundscapes, which is one of the reasons I created this ambient quality, this ambient category within BrainShift Radio, because I find that really quite pleasing. And I also think there's a huge amount of variability that you can do there. And if you listen to some of the ambient tracks on BrainShift Radio, you'll hear it. It kind of covers a spectrum of very arpeggiated patterns to very slow moving and open single tones kind of meandering along. But I'll choose a piece of music that doesn't have any lyrics to it, something that doesn't have a really catchy phrasing to it, that's something that just has a nice flow that's kind of evolving. Other people will choose something with multiple instruments, something that they find activating. So it's really up to you. Choose something you enjoy and then set it at a volume that's comfortable. Some people will choose to bring it way loud so that they can really get into it. Other people want it really quiet. I tend to put it in the background a bit. So whatever works for you. And so the last category that I work with every day is sleep. And sleep is one of the big things we do at the Strong Institute with our custom program. As a matter of fact, sleep and calm, anxiety reduction, the two most common things that we work with all of our custom programs. As a matter of fact, we came out with a new program just a few months ago, the REI Custom Calm program, which is the 30-day anxiety reduction program, because we realized that that was the #1 issue nearly everybody we worked with was dealing with. So if you start with that, you can do a lot beyond that. So for sleep, it's kind of the same idea as for calm. You want something that's going to be at about the low end of alpha, high end of theta. I like it around 7 to 7.6 beats per second, because what we want to do is we want to bring somebody into a pre-sleep state. We don't want to put them into sleep. Sleep is not a single state of consciousness. Sleep exists all the way from alpha to delta, and depending on what stage of sleep we're in, we could be anywhere. And so rather than try and control that process, what I found works for getting to sleep is to go with the really kind of lowest end of alpha. Like I said, around 7.6 beats per second is the best tempo I find, to help someone get in a pre-sleep state that then they can drift off on their own. So that's what I do. I'll turn on something at that point. I can't play to try and calm myself down at that point. I have to listen to something. And again, I'll have it in the background so that I don't notice it after a few minutes, and then I'll fall asleep. If I wake up, I'll turn it back on again. If I want something that's going to keep me asleep, I have to really plan for it and kind of work for it, and I'll use one of my custom programs, which is what most people end up doing. But really, a lot of it has to do with just being able to transition to sleep, because once we get to sleep, for most of us, we can stay asleep. So that's how I use music and sound throughout the day. Obviously, I'm using drumming for most of it. That's my thing. If you haven't tried BrainShift Radio, I recommend giving it a go. We have a 14-day free trial. We have, I think, 150,000 different combinations of music on there, 50,000 hours worth of music that you can play around with. So there's a lot of variety that you can experiment with. See what works for you. And I'm going to play a little bit in the kind of the calm realm of it to go out of this video, and then I'll see you in the next video.